Good afternoon, councillors and staff, and welcome to the October 2021 Ordinary Monthly Meeting of Council. I'd ask you to be upstanding for the affirmation. Councillor Robinson.
We, the councillors of the Armidale region, declare that we will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions invested into us to the best of our skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Gallatley, the acknowledgement of country, please.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. The Armidale regional community pays tribute to the love of the land, love of the people and the love of the culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. Mr General Manager, the statement in relation to streaming of council meetings, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically also authorised by council to do so, and ask that mobile phones be switched off or set to silent, please.
Thank you. Today we have apologies from Deputy Mayor Councillor O'Brien, from Councillor Morat and Councillor O'Connor. I'd like a motion to provide leave of absence. Thank you, Councillor Robinson and Councillor Gallatley. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried. Last Thursday, the Governor-General, His Excellency David Hurley, phoned me, and he'd be well known to many Armidalians. He rang offering his support and conveying his best wishes to Armidale citizens in regard to the tornado damage of the 14th of October. On behalf of all councillors, today I convey gratitude and appreciation to all those who helped with emergency response and the subsequent ongoing recovery, and being wonderfully led by council and staff. On your behalf, I convey our congratulations to all council staff involved, to the leadership of our Alex Menners, Chief Officer Assets and Services, to the RFS, the SES, the New South Wales Fire Brigades, New South Wales Ambulance Service, and the police and Essential Energy, and not forgetting the wonderful young lads from Backtrack, and also private citizens who pitched in. We thank you all, we salute you, we honour you. Thank you. The next matter is disclosure of interests. Are there any? No disclosures. Item 4A is the confirmation of the minutes of the 22nd of September meeting. Somebody move their adoption. Councillor Robinson and Councillor Bailey, no concerns. Put the motion. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried. We move to the mayoral minute. There is one only, and the subject of the minute is now on your screen. I move the recommendation as printed, and would just note the importance of the word loan in there. The family have said it's fine, but we never know the future. I want to thank all those people who've contributed to this mayoral minute, including our own Councillor Morat, Dr Rick Charlesworth and Kathy's brother Greg. I spoke to Greg yesterday, and he's looking forward to meeting with our General Manager and to arranging for the installation of these 3 medals. It's obviously a very fitting tribute to Armidale's most famous Olympian. And I'd like to invite the Chairman of the Sports Council, Councillor Gallatley, to support me. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, most definitely. I was brought up in the era with Kathy, and yep, she was definitely the gun hockey player, that's for sure, as the Olympian that she turned out to be. her brother, actually, I went to school, or pretty well all through school with him, so we always knew a fair bit about what was going on. Well, I did anyway. But anyway, it's very sad that it come to this, because she's very, very young for this to turn out the way that it did. But you know, who knows the cards that we're going to get dealt. And I really do applaud Mayor Tiley for taking this on, and I think it will be a really good show that of her recognition to be keeping her medals and her stuff in our stuff in our chamber, or wherever we decide to put it. But no, I applaud her, and I applaud the mayor for doing this. It's a good thing, and it's just a very sad occasion. But thank you, Ian.
Yeah. Thank you, councillor. I now put the motion. Sure.
Mr Mayor, I didn't know Cathy, unlike Councillor Gallatley, but I had a long discussion with Councillor Murat, whose wife was a cousin of Cathy, and what a legend she was. I mean, not only goalkeeper for Australia, goes on to coach, and then goes on to coach goalkeeping in the men's team. So it shows what a remarkable athlete he was. And I know this meant a lot to the Murat family, and I'd like to support the recommendation and wish the family the best, and look forward to receiving the loan gifts so that we can display them proudly.
Thank you, councillor. I propose to now put the motion on your screen. I don't know whether it's on your screen, is it? The mayoral minute. Can we have it on the screen, please? Just so we all know what we're voting for. That council accept on loan. Look, I'll have to read it. That council accept on loan, safeguard and permanently display in a suitable public accessible place the 3 medals collection of the late Kathleen Ann Partridge OAM. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried unanimously. I've had advice from Councillor O'Connor that she wishes to withdraw notices of motion 6.1, 6.2 and 6.3. I need a motion to accede to her request. Councillor Robinson, Councillor Bailey, all those in favour, to the contrary, carried. To 6.4, the annual funding for the keeping place. If we could have on the screen, please.
Can I put in here, please?
Just before I formalise things, councillor, if you don't mind. Because Councillor O'Connor's away and she's asked me to move it, I'm happy to do so from the chair. The concerns that were expressed by the General Manager in his comment on this item, I've gone back to him and he's accommodated those concerns with the yellow highlighted area. So instead of what was Part A, you now have Part A, B and C. We need the yellow as A, B and C, and then the former B and C become D and E. So, okay, so the yellow is the advice of the General Manager, which you can read on the screen, and it's about putting the matter to the second quarterly review, advertising and so on to comply with the Code of Meeting Practice. That covers his concerns, and parts D and E were about engaging to form an MOU with the keeping place and to get the pathway out the front on the council's footpath priorities. So I move those 5 parts. Is there a second?
I just have a minute to read those, please? Would that be quite all right?
Sure. Need a seconder? Councillor Robinson seconding it. A, B and C, Councillor, the General Manager's words. And D and E are as were printed in the business paper as B and C. I've moved the motion, it's been seconded. I'm not going to speak to it. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Councillor Robinson has seconded. Would you like to speak?
Just to say that I think we have a moral obligation to try and obtain this funding because it's very, very important for the Aboriginal community and their keeping place. And so I thoroughly support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anyone in opposition? Councillor Gladley?
Not so much in opposition, it's just that I actually believe that after going and inspecting it, which I think is fairly important to go, and when something comes up, I think if you go for a drive, it doesn't take a lot to get the perspective of it. I actually believe that the front footpath has been done pretty well. And as far as the disability goes, they have got plenty of entry through the parking area, which is a flat area that is at the same grade as what the whole place is. So it might be a priority to some, but I just presume if you are, especially the likes of one of our elders, as in Elder Widders, and other people with wheelchair access, I don't think there's that much of a problem at the present. And as far as the priority list goes, it's not high on my agenda. But anyway, thank you. That's the only part that I have a problem with at the present. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll exercise a right of reply in light of your comments. You speaking for?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Speaking for in a bit of Swahili. My concern is that we're pulling money out of the air. I will support the resolution, but I am concerned that we're pulling money out of the air. It was taken out of the budget, as were 5 other items, and if we continually second-guess the budget, what's the point in having the budget? So I will support it for reasons of solidarity, but I express deep concern that we're plucking money out that we don't really have in the budget. So that's my concern.
Thank you. That's enough, Councillor. I'll exercise a right of reply because there may be some misconception here. The footpath that we're talking about needs to connect Naram to the keeping place, a distance of somewhat a couple of 100 metres, and there is no footpath. And people have had a fall. When Robert can't think of his surname, was the director of Naram, a woman took a fall there and smashed her head. So it needs to be at least on the priority so that in time we can get it done. We're not suggesting it'll happen overnight or anything like that, but those 2 places need greater safe connectivity. So that concludes the debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 6.5, the depreciation matter. I think this was Councillor Robinson's, and I co-authored it with her. Are you going to move?
I'll move. Oh yeah, I'd like to add a third. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to actually add a third clause, which I passed over and maybe it will be available, but it's very short, that councillors are invited to provide additional information to the mayor for consideration as background supporting material. Or invited, not entitled.
Is it?
And that would be a clause C.
Okay. That councillors are invited to provide additional information.
To the Mayor
I've
for
got it here.
consideration.
Yeah, to the, I'm just needing our... In fairness to our PA today, she's working off a laptop, not the usual machine, and she's struggling a little bit, and understandably so.
For consideration as background, yeah, okay. As background supporting material.
Is the seconder okay with that? Not okay. Oh.
I'm okay because I see we've always got a right to go to the mayor. I don't think we need to state it publicly. If we've got a concern, we want to put an argument, the mayor's door is always open, his phone's always available. I just don't think it's necessary.
Well, you've had to speak in doing that, so be careful. We've got, it's been moved and seconded, that's A and B. I don't see support for amending the motion. But of course you can come to me any time with any information about this matter because it's a very important one. So I think we can probably put it, can we, Councillor?
Yeah, we can probably put it as long as you're prepared to accept further background information.
Of course I am. I'm not going to say to you, you can't give me information about this vital issue.
Yeah,
Quite the converse.
which
but I should tell you that I'll be flicking it straight to the person on my right. Okay?
Yeah, well, that's not a problem. The whole point is just to be able to say that if there is any additional information,
that's
you
fine.
or the person on your right can
I propose to
make
put the
use of
motion
it.
that you can, if you need to. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but yes. Well, let Councillor Robinson have the first right. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, you're the seconder, your next speaker, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say that, first of all, I was very, very pleased to read in the response to the submissions on our draft budget, on a submission by Brian Halstead, who is an accountant and former chair of a Metropolitan Council Audit Committee, that our council promised to provide more readable and easier to understand information. But I personally have heard that several councils are finding the current situation less than ideal. I certainly remember Stephen Horn, the presenter of training organised by Local Government New South Wales on audit, risk and improvement committees, saying that he thought the format of the audited accounts was not really suitable for local government. And similar sentiments were expressed at Local Government New South Wales training by Dennis Banovich, who is director of PricewaterhouseCoopers and has over 30 years experience in local government finance and audit. And when people like Brian Halstead and the Local Government New South Wales trainers Stephen Horn and Dennis Banovich tell us there's a problem, it's our duty to listen and try and fix it. And in the long run, better and easy to understand information will help all councils deliver the best results for our communities. And this motion sets in place the process of working with Local Government New South Wales, who will no doubt enlist the expertise of their trainers, such as Stephen Horn and Dennis Banovich, and other experts to determine the best possible approach. Therefore, I commend the motion to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bailey, a seconder.
My comment is twofold. Firstly, I think from memory, in looking at the figures, we have to account for about $24 million worth of depreciation. And every time we get a grant, we've then got to put it in for depreciation. And when you combine that with revaluations, I think every 3 or 5 years, it means in actual fact our assets can sometimes be going up without us having to actually do anything. And we've got to find a way to introduce some new depreciation standards that don't cripple councils for the future. And that's why I'd be anxious to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any opposition? Councillor.
Can you, have we voted on this amendment yet? The council are invited to provide. Is that up? Is that part of it now? Dorothy's amendment?
No. No, we've gone back to A and B only.
Okay, that's gone. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay. I think if the ministers, I'm speaking against this. I think in the time that I've been on council, the minister would have a pile of paperwork there from the author that would be enough to choke a horse. I think for us to get any credibility and for them to take us seriously, we've got to start taking achievable, realistic things to them. I do not believe, I do understand that this is not a very good policy that they've got as far as we go with depreciation, but I don't think they're going to take any notice of it, to be honest. I think it's just going to go into the pile, they're going to look who the author is and where it's came from, and they're just going to shake their head. So I'm against this, thank you.
As co-author of the report, I speak for the motion in two parts. I'm particularly strong on the first part. For years now, councils have struggled under the yoke of having to fund depreciation. It's been a key factor in why we are struggling, and all councils across the state just about are struggling to achieve financial sustainability. The intent of this motion is to put a motion to the next Local Government New South Wales conference. That's our peak body, and the objective is that we get it through that conference and we lobby the government to make change. There's no doubt in my mind that unless we get beneficial change by more appropriate depreciation rates, we are forever going to struggle in the mire of finances. So that's why I strongly support this motion. So everybody's now had a speak. Do you need to reply, Councillor Robinson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is going to Local Government New South Wales Conference, and this is where it will be debated, where we will work with the experts in Local Government New South Wales Conference to get a very, very good case together before we go to the Minister and to the New South Wales Government. So that will be the process, and that is where we will get the best possible argument, and let's hope that they will listen to us, because there's been an awful lot of problems with an awful lot of councils, and some of them with better information and better financial and better things like depreciation rates maybe would not have had the problems that we've had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes the debate. I'll put the motion on your screen in two parts, A and B. All those in favour? To the contrary, it's carried 3 votes to 1 with Councillor Gallatley in the negative. 6.6 is the next notice of motion, and the only author here is Councillor Robinson, so it's your motion. Will you move it?
Yes, I'll move the motion.
Moving it in two parts, A and B. Is it seconded? Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Your motion, Councillor Robinson.
Right, well, this is one of the things that's a really, really sad fact, that we are going to have to live with COVID. And that means taking reasonable precautions and not relying just on vaccination. Because to me, it's a great concern that, for example, in the UK, despite being fully vaccinated, 256 people died from breakthrough COVID infections. We can't rely on vaccination. And in the UK, again, this is where we'll be if we don't look after our residents in our future. Schools in the UK are a major source of infection. In the first 2 weeks of the return of face-to-face learning, more than 100,000 school children caught COVID. And one simple way to reduce this risk is to make sure our schools and our public buildings have good ventilation and good filtration. That's what the research has shown. Filtering removes the virus and the particles that aid its transmission. And remember again, all it takes is 10 micrograms per cubic metre of PM2.5 over a month to increase the risk of COVID by 12%. That's for everybody, not just in buildings. And that's why the Teachers' Federation President, Angelo Gavrilo-Olatis, is calling for better filtration and ventilations in our schools. And that is what the Victorian government is already doing. So let's please support the experts and the Teachers' Union by calling on the New South Wales government to do the same. It will cost Council almost nothing to write a letter, but it could make a real difference to our long-term risk from COVID and a consequent impact on our health and the economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The seconder wish to speak? No? Is there opposition? No? No speakers? So I propose to put the motion on the screen in two parts on page 13 of your business paper. All those in favour? Those against? It's carried 3 votes to 1 with Councillor Gallatley in the negative. 6.7, Councillor Robinson, I understand. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to defer this motion. Thank you.
I'll take a motion to not consider item 6.7. Councillor Robinson, Councillor Bailey. All those in favour? To the contrary, 3, 4 and Councillor Gallatley in the negative. We now move, and I call the 7 series. 7.1, tabling of disclosure of pecuniary interests. You watch for me, will you? Yeah. 7.2, council meeting cycle for ordinary meetings, amendment to first meeting date. 7.3, code of conduct complaint statistics. And 7.4, Ymca annual report 2021. None of them are called. I'll take a motion to adopt the 4 by consent. Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Gallatley. No opposition. Put the motion. All those in favour, to the contrary, carried. I now call the 8 series. Sorry. Right. We're in front of technology, councillors. Right to go? Thanks. We now move to 8 series. 8.1, the Armidale Region Tourism Strategy for adoption. 8.2, Cash and Investment Report. 8.3, the Public Exhibition of Community Engagement and Benefit. Councillor Gallatley. I'll go back and start again. We right? Okay, starting again. 8.1, Councillor Bailey. 8.2, not called. 8.3, Councillor Gallatley. And 8.4, Ymca Partnership. Councillor Bailey. So we have only one item not called, 8.2. I'll take a motion to adopt that by consensus. Move Councillor Gallatley, seconded Councillor Robinson. All those in favour, to the contrary, carried. 8.1, Armidale Region Tourism Strategy. Councillor Bailey.
Moving. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
You're moving the recommendation?
I move.
Thank you. Is it seconded somewhere? Councillor Robinson seconding. It's your motion, Councillor Bailey.
Council 18 months ago employed, or we used a consultant to come in and to write a tourism strategy for the council, and it should have come to council earlier. It's got some good points and gives us a plan to go forward. As always, when you get a new council, it can be amended, but I think it's a basis to move forward to try and increase the number of tourists coming to Armidale. When you consider a tourist coming to Armidale spends an average of $168 a day per person, it's probably the best way that we can ensure that we can get our economy moving quickly if we can get tourism moving, and this can be the baseline document to help that to happen. So I'm delighted to move that 8.1 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there other speakers? I'll put the motion. All those in favour of adoption, carried unanimously. 8.3 on page 37. the recommendation is endorse the strategy. Your motion, sorry, Councillor, you called us, I think. Councillor Gallatley, you did.
Yep. We got a seconder? Yeah.
So you're moving,
I'm moving. Thank
and
you.
you're seconding it, Councillor Robinson? Yes. Moved and seconded. The officer's recommendation on page 37. Your motion, Councillor Gallatley.
Thank you, Mayor Tiley. This is new ground for us, but I commend our in-house fellas that have put all this together. We're walking brand new bit of a trail here, and it's got to start somewhere. I'm looking at this as it's alive. This is the little tip of an iceberg here of what we're doing, and we're going to have to learn our way along through a little bit, or a lot. We're going to have to take a lot of advice. We're going to have to listen to a lot of community input into this. There was a couple of people said it'd be a lot better if it was out in a lot to the public for 28 days, a lot longer. But I think this is just a good start to get it going, and we're not going to go to sleep with this over the December and January episode. This is all part of the way that we're going to be doing it, I believe, with the renewable energy stuff. This is something that's been put on us by the government, and yes, I think 90% of the people are accepting that this is happening, but we've got to do it right, and we're not going to get any second chance with this, because there could be a big footprint left, bigger than some of the mining industry and gas and stuff like that over the decades. So anyway, as I said, I'm speaking for this, and I just believe that it is good to just have it out for 28 days, but this is going to be the biggest thing that most people in this area is going to see over their lifetime in the whole region. So I'm just commending it and saying, let's get on with it and put it out there, and we've got to live with it, but let's make the best of it, and we all agree that renewables or something new is the way we've got to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallatley. The seconder wish to speak? Councillor Robinson?
Very briefly, this New England Renewable Energy Zone is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our region to become climate neutral, to negotiate low-cost or perhaps even zero-cost energy in the middle of the day for households and businesses to reduce pollution and improve health. And I thank all the people who have been involved in this, because we've made a really, really good start in this draft policy, which has involved so many people and so much advice. And it does, in fact, work by embracing all the principles of zero emissions and low-cost energy. It mentions the need for households and businesses to have low-cost energy. It mentions us the need to work in with Project 030 and our climate emergency declaration. So all we need to do now is put it on public exhibition and let the residents have their say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any speakers against? I propose to put the motion on your screen, to put it on exhibition. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. And item 8.4, the Ymca partnership proposal called by Councillor Bailey. Would you like to move?
I move, Mr
Moving
Mayor.
the recommendation. You're seconding the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor. Your motion, Councillor Bailey.
It was nearly 3.5 years ago that I went to council to try and encourage them to begin the process of building a hydrotherapy pool. I'd proposed that we should at the same time look at outsourcing our pools to try and reduce the costs. I'd seen the example at Ymca where the Maxwell hydrotherapy pool, when they went to outsource it, it dropped the revenue or dropped the running costs from the running losses from 750,000 down to about 250,000. And we went for the capital project first, and then that got ruled out by an administrator. We're now back on track, and our new GM is using the experience that he gained at Broken Hill, and we're going to hopefully see beginnings of making the hydrotherapy pool happen by getting an outstanding not-for-profit to come in and have a look at the operation of our pools and how we can make them better and how we can ensure that they can become less a burden on the community. And who knows, maybe we'll finish up in time to come with a hydrotherapy pool, and my dream is to see a gym down there also, and that would be the ultimate. But congratulations to the GM for making it happen, and we look forward to seeing the report from the YMCA.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson wish to speak as seconder?
Yeah, I have great respect for the YMCA and some of the wonderful things they've done. So this looks like a win-win partnership for the community and for council. And as Councillor Bailey says, maybe in the long run it will lead to return of hydrotherapy to Armidale and our region. So I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any opposition? I put the motion. All those in favour? To the contrary, carried unanimously. Now calling the 9 series. 9.1, Gyron District Pony Club, expenditure of grant funding. Councillor Gallatley calling 9.1. 9.2, New South Wales Road Classification Review and Transfer System. 9.3, Engagement of Contractor, Kempsey Road Restoration. 9.4, the planning agreement with Tilbuster Solar Dam needs to be called. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. And 9.5, the acquisition of drainage reserve Magic Drive, sorry. And 9.6, the Airport East planning agreement. Thank you. We have 2 items called. I can therefore put to you to approve by consensus items 9.2, 9.3, 9.5 and 9.6. I'll take a motion to that effect. Councillor Gallatley and Councillor Bailey. I saw all hands up, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour, to the contrary, carried unanimously. To 9.1, the Gyron District Pony Club matter. Councillor Gallatley.
Yeah, look, do we need a seconder or anything? I can just speak on.
Oh, you got me there. Yes, seconder, please, somewhere. I'm slipping up. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you. Look, I think this is great. This is going to show that we have got confidence in community members and committees and sports people and whatever to be taking a little bit of initiative themselves and taking on projects to do for us. I reckon it's a great thing. It comes back to many years ago when I first started business in Armidale, about 43 or 4 years ago, and the showground had their president was a fellow called Basil Rice, who was a fairly big character in this community and did a lot for the Gyra region. And when you drive into the Gyra showground, you look on the left-hand side, and he was one of the people that forced to get money from the government to put that big pavilion up there, which is now used all the time, and it's pretty well it's the pavilion. So this goes back to how things used to be done. I really give our GM and his staff credit to be able to put this to the Gyra Pony Club. By the way, the Gyra Pony Club is as always, I've dealt with pony clubs for those 42 years in my saddlery business, and the Gyra Pony Club has been the pony club that everyone's wanted to be. Kingstown Pony Club lately has came up and actually put a bit of a challenge on with them, because all the people want to go to Kingstown or Gyra now, so probably taking a little bit off the Gyra fellas, but anyway, they've always been very competent pony club. One thing that sort of grasped me the other day when we were discussing it in the GM's report on this coming up here, but for today, was that Councillor O'Connor doubted the ability of a pony club to put up a toilet and shower block to manage the construction of it, and it's actually got me completely bewildered. When you're hiring contractors to do the job, how hard it is, but they'll get it done a fair bit cheaper than hopefully a bit quicker than with us with our backload of work that we've got to do. I just think it's such a good thing, and hopefully through the whole new term with new councillors coming up, that we can see a lot more of this happening and a little bit more money spent. But I was hoping that we could have Councillor O'Connor here and I could ask her what her problem actually was with Gora Pony Club, but I suppose I'll have to wait for that for another day. But anyway, I applaud it, and thank you, staff and everyone, for letting this go the way it has.
Thank you. It's been seconded. Is there anyone else needing to speak? I'll put the motion, which is the recommendation, on page 43, I think. There at 43. It's there on the screen now. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. And we were provided with what's now on your screen as a staff recommendation, and I take a motion to Councillor Robinson and seconded by Councillor Galatly. Is there a need to discuss or debate?
Well, I just wanted to speak very, very briefly on it, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Which is
okay.
really, this is only a slight modification to the developer's offer, but it's a really, really important one. So I hope the developers will accept it, and at the same time, the residents will then get the Community Benefits Fund at the start of construction, which is when a lot of the disruption happens, and really when the residents and the people nearby need to be recognised and accommodated. So I hope this will be a win-win situation for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I propose to put the motion on the screen if there's no other speakers. The yellow. Back to the yellow, please. It's no longer yellow, is it? That's it.
Yep.
The motion is the yellow on your screen. Okay? All those in favour? To the contrary, carried. Calling the committee reports, 11.1, Art, Culture and Heritage. 11.2, Environmental Sustainability Committee, Councillor Robinson. Yes? 11.2 has been called. 11.3, Traffic Advisory. 11.4, Economic Development Committee. I'll take a motion to adopt by consensus 11.1, 11.3 and 11.4. Councillor Robinson, Councillor, seconded by Councillor. I'll second it from the Chair. Is there any opposition? No. This is to adopt 11.1, 3 and 4. Okay, we're all in agreement with that. I put the motion. All those in favour, to the contrary, carried. Councillor Robinson called 11.2 her Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee. Now, there's a recommendation there, Councillor.
Well, I'd like to move the recommendation with an additional clause C, that Council support in principle the recommendations of the committee. You know,
Councillor, that might be a direct negative to the word note.
well, you can note it and then you can support it. So I don't think it is a contradiction.
I'll take some advice on this one, I think. Mr. General Manager, can you help?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I will just defer to Mr Connor in his capacity heading up the governance and corporate section of the organisation for a comment, please.
Yep, sorry. The General Manager's deferring to Mr O'Connor. He's the governance guy, okay? Thank you. Chief Officer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through you to Council. I guess the question in answering it was what the intent of support in principle was. With regard to governance for committees that aren't delegated decision-making of Council, generally the matters are noted because they don't go through the same requirements that public council meetings do, so they're not open to the public, they don't have council reports to them. They haven't had the public have the availability to come in and deputise on them, and as such, it's not seen as good governance to move from a committee to council directly employing resources, excuse me, or taking action. So I guess my question would be, it would be dependent on the intent of adding point C, if it was to confer council to take action on those or to incur resources without having been through the rigour of an open council report, then I'd suggest that's probably not advisable, but I would hand back to the councillor on the intent of the matter.
Councillor Robinson, you heard our Chief Officer. Do you wish to proceed with Part C?
If I can get a seconder, I will proceed with Part C.
I thought, no, you didn't have a seconder, did you? Sorry. Okay.
You've been seconded.
Right, okay, so it looks to me like it might be lapsing for want of a seconder. It is. Would you like to revert to the recommendation on page, on this item on page 67, which is A and B, B being in 9 parts?
Yes, okay, I'll revert to it.
C's out because of lapse for want of a seconder. And Councillor Robinson, I think, is reverting to the committee recommendation.
The officer recommendation.
Is it officer? No, it's your committee recommendation, isn't it? Oh no, the council note. Didn't this all come from your committee, councillor?
It came from my committee, but it's an officer recommendation, isn't it? If you go back to...
Okay, I'll go with you. The recommendation on page 67 is in 2 parts, A and B, B being in 9 subparts. You're moving that.
Up.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Bailey seconding it. I don't believe there's a need to debate, seeing that we're noting. Councillor Robinson.
Well, I do think it's a shame that there is no... In the past, these things have certainly been where when we have a committee and the committee makes recommendations, then it would be good in future to have an officer's report saying whether or not they're feasible, because otherwise really we are devaluing the results of our committees, and I think that's probably something that might deter people from being on committees in the future, and that would be a great loss to council. So
Yes.
my thought in this was that there weren't too many really, there's virtually nothing apart from that was significant as far as the budget was concerned, and that we should actually be able to, things like, you know, signing the council, the Better Futures Australia's declaration, is that, you know, I mean, I don't understand why that should be a problem. And I would certainly think, and we've already, for example, had a council resolution to seek funding for the security lighting along the cycleway. We've already had an officer recommendation to the committee, at least, to recommend that council seek funding to update the walking and cycling programme and support the idea of investigate. Can you scroll down? Because otherwise I've got to work on the iPad, and it's a little bit hard to do that. And already, and things like endorsing the EcoArc implementation priority, I thought that again was generally agreed that this was a good idea because we had a long discussion on it. And again, we had all the other things that worked from the committee, but I am a little bit concerned that the committee will not devote their valuable time if we just note things and we don't agree with them or don't endorse them. But if that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. So thank you. I'll move the motion as printed.
Thank you. It's been seconded. I'll talk to you after the council meeting about some of the things you just said, because there's some changes that you can make to be more effective. Councillor Bailey, do you wish to speak to the motion to note?
I wish to suggest that we defer this to the next meeting. I know we'll be in caretaker mode, but I'd like a further opportunity to talk to Councillor Robinson and have a read and then come back with and have another attempt at it. Would that be possible, Mr Mayor?
We can do that, but all we're doing right now is noting those matters. We can note them and go away and talk further, put up a notice of motion, whatever you like, but I see no reason why we shouldn't just simply note today and move
Well,
on.
I'd prefer to defer and maybe talk to.
But that's your prerogative.
Quickly say that we have another meeting on the 1st of November.
You have spoken, I'm sorry. Do you as the mover and seconder, are you saying to me that you want to defer the matter?
We can note it and then,
Look, I'm being very lenient here. We have a motion. I think we should put the motion
yeah,
for
put the motion.
notation. All right? Putting the motion. All those in favour? 3, 4. So it's, I concur with that. So we've got it adopted unanimously. There's no matters of an urgent nature, no questions on notice, no confidential matters, so I have pleasure in declaring the meeting closed at 10 minutes to 5, and thank you all for your attendance at this, the last, dare I say it, full-blown meeting of the Council. Our next meeting, of course, is in caretaker mode in Armidale. I wish you all a safe trip home.